My goal at the time was this was going to be really for historic interpretation. I was going to kind of use this as an RV and just take it to living history events and use it for historic interpretation. I did want to make my goal of 75% reused and recycled materials on it, not go be running to Lowe's and Home Depot every day, which I did do, but for little things, thank goodness. Plan to get it done in 2 years from the time I started building. I did have a goal of downsizing. I have way too much stuff. And I set my budget at $25,000, which, again, I bought a couple of RVs. I thought that $25,000 was a pretty reasonable goal for building something myself. So I started collecting materials after the workshop. That first year, really, I started collecting materials and ideas. These are some windows that actually were given to me. That seemed like that they would work in the house, and if you saw the house coming up, you'll see that both of those are in the house now. Somebody gave me a whole bunch of cypress boards that had been pulled out of an old house up in Julington Creek near Jacksonville, and really neat tongue and groove cypress wall paneling. And so I was real lucky to get that. Here's the long lengths of it. I've hauled that stuff around with me for the last couple of years now. Couple of old doors that were kind of neat. And then I started hitting all of those salvage shops. There's really great salvage shops. I was living in Tampa at the time, and this is at Schiller's. And that's my granddaughter with one of the things you find cool stuff at salvage shops. So I just sort of started inventorying things that I'd want. I was looking for windows to put wooden windows in, but I really couldn't find anything I felt like was sturdy enough and that were the right kind of windows that I wanted. And then we also did a lot of dumpster diving. Every time I'd find wood, paneling, anything on the side of the road. And anyway, I ordered a trailer. I custom ordered a trailer. I don't know if any of you are in that trailer mode of tiny house shopping yet, but you're driving along and every trailer you see for sale on the side of the road, you're like this, because is that going to work? Is that going to be my house? I ended up ordering one from a boat builder, and it's aluminum. And it's awesome. It was really expensive, but it's awesome. It's really light. It only weighs a little over 1,000 pounds. With the long tongue, it's extremely maneuverable, and it just massive, and that my first thing when I first saw it, I said, oh my gosh, that's massive. This is supposed to be a tiny house. But it was exactly what I wanted, and I was really glad, and I still am really glad that I invested in the aluminum trailer. So I started putting the plumbing in because, doing the foundation, trying to get everything ready. So I drilled all the holes. I've plumbed a couple of old houses before, so I kind of knew what I was doing there, and YouTube is like the best thing in the world. At the time I was using an old drill, and the joke was that about the time I wore out, the battery on the drill wore out, so it'd go recharge and I'd go take a nap. So it just moved along. Didn't move along quickly, but it moved along. But I got all of the plumbing in. There's my freshwater tank up at the top. And this green hose right there, that's the toilet thing. It's plumbed just like an RV with the dump tank things on the side of it and everything. So while I was figuring out what I was going to do as far as building it, I was just kind of chugging along with doing my plumbing and some of the other things. And that's one of the first questions everybody asks me, where's the bathroom? That's the bathroom. It is a combination shower, toilet, tank thing that you generally see in a small boat. And I've had an RV that had that in it. It's all the space I need. I'm really good with it. I don't want to take up valuable floor space in my house with a big bathroom. This is the floor plan I ended up with. And so you can see I decided, okay, the bed was, an entire bedroom was not as big of a deal, that I wanted my living space. And you'll see more on this piano bed later, but that's a convertible bed, a table over here that flips out. I have a heater and stove, and then the kitchen area, and there's my little bathroom area there. I ended up putting a bay window into it, and underneath the bay window is some storage for my propane and everything, and there was how my my front ended up, based on how they installed, like they put the bathroom on this side, and so I wanted the door right there so it wasn't straight back to the bathroom from the front door. And then during this process, as I was acquiring things and planning, I decided to build it out of SIPs. And if you're haven't heard, it's a structural insulated panel system. And this is what they look like. Okay, so it's OSB on both sides, oriented strand board with a hard foam center. They're manufactured. I had to give them my dimensions, and this was all the guys that built the wall panels for me. I just gave them this and then left my trailer there so they could measure any other things they needed to measure. Told them it couldn't be over 14 feet high, and I'd rather 13.6. And so they fabricated these panels, and then the way you put them together, it's really cool. You put a frame around the bottom of your trailer, and that they notch out the bottom. This fits right there, and you screw it in. Yep. And then you put a 4x4 in. You screw this one in. And then you screw them to the 4x4 in a couple of places. And you screw them on the inside too. So it's all sandwiched around a frame, but the pieces are 4 feet wide. My pieces are 6.5 feet tall. And so it's just a solid panel. And bam, and you know, you think, oh, that goes together fast. Yeah, it does. The whole kit, all the pieces, side panels, front and back, and the roof, cost me $2,000 for the kit. If I'd have done framing, the framing would have been about $1,500. But you'll see in a second, we built most of this in a day on the doing the walls part. So it's R25 on the insulation. It's all recycled, 100% recycled material. People ask about the formaldehyde and that OSB had in it. This particular stuff has been all tested. It's LEED certified. It doesn't have any of those things in it. So, you know, the people that I got it from, and then you'll see in a little bit who they are, which we're not in Tampa anymore, but you probably still will recognize some of them. Anyway, so that was my panels. I ordered it. There was my front and back design for it, and I did a couple of exercises. I put the flooring down and did a couple of exercises to make sure, yep, this was exactly how I wanted where everything went, and yep, it was. We acquired a center beam, and with my reduce, reuse, recycle stuff, that's 1906 heart pine from the Parish Train Depot, the original train depot. And my salvage guy said, oh, you need an 18-foot beam? I got an 18-foot beam. We had to pour a whole lot of cellulose in it to bulk it back up, but it's been awesome, and you'll see it when you go inside the house. It's pretty cool. We went and bought all this, this stuff for the framing part of it, but it's like about a third of the framing.
Did you use all pressure treated for the interior, for the studding? And
yes, I did. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to, but I did.
And they're all, what, full foot on center, basically?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's all the wood and everything. And then I had to take it back to the trailer guys and put this bit on it in metal, because they came back and they put the 2x4s right here, this part of it right here. They put that, and so that they could do the walls on it. And here's the start of my build. And we had about 30 people show up. We had a meetup. We put a meetup on and Florida Tiny House Enthusiasts and everything. And we started building. We didn't start till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There's Martine right there. And so we, just kept going, and it was coming together, and everybody had brought drills, and as they got a piece in there, all these, bees, and putting my sides up. This was the only window they cut for me. Well, more on that one later. They did cut my door, which was nice. And then they set the beam. They got a big crane up there, and they set the beam, and that was pretty cool to see. There's Martine. Don't do this at home. He wouldn't let anybody else get up on the forklift. That's Paul. It works for Martine. But we were all. It was just such a cool afternoon. They started putting the roof panels on, and they got 2 roof panels on, and then you can see over here, Florida in June. And so that we got them on, and then the rain came in. There's Aurora and me, and the clouds are coming, and they're coming, and we went back to my house, and it didn't get done that day. So we went back to the house, and we did some more stuff the next day without the tiny house being there. My friend Jody, who is in Sanford, has a company called CCS Restoration, and she restores and builds old windows, and that's who I had ordered my windows from. So there's my 4 side windows made out of reclaimed cypress, and my little garden window that I'd done. I couldn't find what I wanted to recycle, so I did this with Jody. And some of my friends stayed for the weekend. They're building my stairs and stripping boards and pulling all the nails out of all that paneling that I'd been given and painting my windows. And then we brought the house back later that afternoon, and so there it was. We covered it up. Aurora loves climbing on stuff, and so we covered it up so it was tarped for a long time, and I'm figuring, okay, how the heck am I going to get this rest of this roof on? Because, of course, don't have a forklift in my backyard. So my boyfriend came over, and we did a couple of things. We lifted it up on ladders, and we shoved them up. Each panel weighs 150 pounds. It was challenging. We rigged up a pulley system. And I made a pulley, a sling, and then we winched it on the outside and winched it up. Don't do it from the inside. It doesn't work because you have to go like way up over and then flip it out, and it was terrible. So we finally did it from the outside, but you can see we've got the winch going there to pull it up. And so we ended up getting one whole side of it done by pushing and shoving and winching. And so there was the whole first side finished, and I also cut out a couple. We'll get back to the windows in a minute, but cut out some of the windows. For wiring inside a SIP house, it obviously it's not the same. You have to like cut in the sides, scrape out all the foam, and then if you go up from the bottom or down from the top, which this case I did down from the top to get the wiring in. So right now my wiring runs like back from here and then down that hole to that socket. That's how I got the hole down there. I just put the pipe in there and beat on it. But anyway, we got one whole side done, the windows cut, went to Legoland, had a little fun, bought a little Lego camper. But yeah, we still need to do the other side. So this time, I did the sling, did it from the outside, but I hitched it to my car. And then I got it up as high as I could, and then I drove the car away from the house, and it just went whoop right up there. Yeah. And so we got the whole second side on in a day, where the other one, it was like one panel a weekend. Second side we got on in a day. So by the end of July, the roof was on. And that was attached to the car.
And the roof panels are made just like the
just like the side panels, yeah.
So if it hadn't had rained,
we'd have been done all in the
day.
day. In a day. Yeah, if it hadn't started raining. But it was like lightning, and we weren't going to do it. But there's our topping ceremony. About a month after we started the build, we topped it. I collect flamingos. We topped it with a flamingo, and there we go. So then we started, I worked on these. I got these windows cut out. There's my paneling. We had stripped it all and sanded it all. So I was using it as a storeroom because I don't have any storage at my house. So there's sort of all my building supplies stored inside the tiny house. The windows, you have to scrape this stuff back out. You cut it, and you cut it on the outside, you cut it on the inside, you hope it lines up, you bash it out, and then you scrape out this so that a 2x4 can fit in it. So that's what I'm doing there. It's like it's snowing. There's little pieces of foam everywhere. But there's the pieces that I just beat out. There's all the foam and everything coming out of it. So that's a window right after it's been cut. That's after you put the framing in it. Then you put the window frame in to make sure it fits, but you don't screw it in because you have to do all sorts of finishing on it, so that it doesn't leak and everything like when you're building a real house. But that's me scraping the front bay window. That was interesting because that right there is a support beam on the house. So I had to put in 4x4s on either side and and screw into them, and then I cut this and ducked and hoped that the whole house wouldn't collapse on me, but it didn't. Yay. So I've done 3 windows like that where I cut the support beam now, no issues. Then we wrapped it in Tyvek because you got to do that next before you can finish out your windows. And then you cut that. No idea how to do anything like this. So all this was YouTube stuff. You put this tape stuff in, make sure your window fits again, and then your window's in. You screw it in and it's done. Yay. There's my finished window. That was the part I hated most about it. I mean, it's really rewarding getting the windows in, but for me, cutting that stuff and scraping that foam, I hated it, and I stalled about doing it.
What's the R factor on that?
25.
25.
Yep. So there's my historic window. Put it in the front. Left the tape on too long, and now I've got to get after it. Anyway, then I moved to Sanford. I got a great job working for Seminole County, so the house had to be ready to move. So I put boards over the windows, and we hauled it up the highway just like this, and took all the back roads. But it was street legal, so it went, and we got it there. I borrowed a truck because I still had the Mustang at the time, and borrowed a truck and got it up there. Had traded in my Mustang on this. I thought this was going to work. It doesn't, but there's my clamp it theme going down the highway, moving all my junk up to Sanford. And there it is, after we got to Sanford, parked in the back of the little house, the little bungalow house I live in now is 900 square feet, so it's pretty small. We've got 3 of us living there. When it sat there looking just like this, I got a knock on the door, and it was code enforcement. And one of my neighbors had complained. I mean, I was there a day, okay? One of my neighbors had complained. Well, going back to Jay's workshop, that's what Jay talks about a lot, is how to handle stuff like that. Plus, I work for the government. I'm used to stuff like that. A lot of times it's me being the bureaucrat, so I totally get it. So she's like, you're building a shed without a permit. No, I'm not. It's on a trailer. It's on wheels. It's not a shed. Well, what happens when it comes off? Well, then I'm in big trouble because it's attached by hurricane clamps. It's not coming off. And she said, but is it never coming off? And I said, I would hope it's never coming off. It's, it's a house on wheels, and it's like an RV. And she's asking, and she said, okay, really, what is it? And I said, really, it's a tiny house. She says, I knew it. That is so cool. So the code enforcement lady in Sanford is now like my new best friend. She comes by to check on it all the time. And, I didn't get upset, and I didn't overreact, and everything worked out great. And my neighbor since sold the house and moved. So anyway,
and
yeah.
that worked because it's permanently on wheels.
It's permanently on wheels. Yep. Can't live in it. We'll get there, but can't live in it. But you can build it, and it can be in your backyard because it's technically an RV. All right. During all this stuff, you see I'm getting really into it. But it was originally intended just to be a camping thing, just a thing for the hobby. But I'm meeting other tiny house people. I'm researching. Honestly, my long-term retirement plan had always been to buy an RV and volunteer at state parks and stuff. I really had planned on downsizing and doing something like this, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't need an RV. I've got this, and this is great. And so I'm during that first 6 months of the build, I'm really going, okay, this is the retirement house now. I'm focusing and changing direction on that tiny house, simple life. And so during this period, that's when that kind of started happening for me. And now a lot of people go into it, they know they're going to live in it, but it took me a little while to get there and to think that I could do it. So this is some of the construction that was going on in the backyard of the house in Sanford. It's, you know, I rent the house. I didn't want to be tied down with a mortgage or something if it got done and I decided to move into it. So I rented, and it was kind of fun because, you know, when you're looking for rental house, okay, it's got to be on a corner. Why? Because I have a tiny house. And I really started getting a cool feeling for the inside space as I was building my loft. And I originally had been going to do a ladder, and then I was going to do stairs in the living area. But as I got this up there, I'm like, that is just so huge. And I ended up putting the stairs on the other side in the kitchen. And you'll see when you go in there. But just by building, you know, I have all these friends that are really trying to pin it down, what they're doing now, and it's still real conceptual. That's great, and it's great to do, and it's great to research, but you're going to change your mind a million times. And that's great when you're building it yourself because you can. There's me, that terrible picture, Aurora took it, but I'm up on the roof, my last piece of rubber sealing stuff on the roof. Yay, I didn't have to put tarps on it anymore. And there it is in the daylight, all rubber sealed, and started Tyvecking and, you know, just keep working on it. Started moving some of the furnishings in, long-range furnishings, to get a feel of the space. We'll get there again, but yes, that's the first thing everybody says when they walk in. You have a piano? You'll see in a minute what that is. But there's my comfy chair. I had a rocking chair in there. It was not comfy. I said, I have got to get a comfy chair. I found that on Craigslist. I love it. And it's tiny. It's perfect. And anyway, so there's my chair. There's the, from the other way, so we've got the piano. There's my heater. We've got, that's been changed out now, but there's some kitchen type area and everything up there. And then the loft space. And the stairs aren't in here, they're kind of around the corner right there.
Where'd you find your potbelly?
On eBay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bought it for $41 on eBay. It was in New Jersey and she wasn't going to ship. Well, a guy I went to high school with lives in New Jersey. I called him up, and I mean, you know, we emailed a couple times, hadn't talked to him in years. Called him up and said, Joe. He knew about the tiny house. I said, would you go pick up a stove for me? And he said, okay. I said, I'll be up some point. So about 6 months later, we went up to DC for Christmas, and I drove on up to New Jersey and picked up my stove. So, yay. But that's the look I was going for all along, and I'm you know, so I keep kind of coming back to that as I'm building and saying, okay, this is kind of where I want to be. That's an actual tiny house up in the Catskills. Someday I'm going to go visit it. She's got a great blog. I started, okay, so siding, reuse, recycle. I was looking at old barnwood. That stuff's expensive. And somebody suggested, why don't you get cypress fence panels? That's a carload of cypress fence panels. I paid $100 for the whole thing. The nails were already pulled out of it. This fencing store on 1792 up in Longwood, and they think I'm nuts, but they think it's a cool project. So that's my siding's all cypress, and it cost me $100. Then I went and picked up some roofing, end of the job roofing. Again, about $103, I think, for the roofing. And it's the panels that they put in between the colored panels so that they don't get scratched, and they end up throwing them away or doing something, melting them back down or whatever. So I got those really cheap. And when they say non-expanding foam insulation, don't believe them. I just was like, oh, really? But I came back all the little cracks before I put the roofing and the ridge on. I shot foam down everywhere, so sealed up everything. Cut the roofing because it was a little bit long, and then we started putting the metal roof on, and that stuff goes on easy. Again, YouTube. I've never done any kind of roofing before, but we had fun. We got it on in a couple of weeks, and we that window still hadn't been cut because I'd been putting it off. So I started cutting it, and that's where I framed it out because that's that support beam in the middle there. And the whole thing didn't cave in. And then I framed back around it. And then to hold it in there, that's one place where I didn't go all natural, that's PVC. And I bent the PVC, you have to boil it, but you boil it and it bends, and then when it's still bendy, you stick it up there and it'll take the shape. And then you fill in those little cracks with Bondo. Again, YouTube. I painted it and started putting the fence paneling on. It was really exciting. That was at Christmas. I was a little worried about it shimmying, and Andrew suggested this to me, the professional builder. These are some big giant bolts, and I put them through, and then there's a support beam inside the house. And I did 2 at each end of the bottom, and then I did it up at the top with the beams for the loft. I screwed into the beams. So instead of the beams just being there and stabilizing from the inside, they actually have big bolts that go into them from the outside with these big monster washers. And I had a little bit of shimmying on the move from Tampa to Sanford, and I was a little worried about that. It has not budged anywhere since I did this. It kind of separated a little bit on one corner, and so I got a big metal bracket, and I bolted it through on that one corner because I was a little worried. And then I hit on this, and so I've got cross beams that's reinforced in 2, 3, 4 places now, with all the way through from one side to the other, and haven't had any more issues with it at all. So anyway, I just kept on putting the siding up. This looks so cute. I really didn't want to paint it because it looks so cute. But I really wanted it blue. Aurora loves roofing. She really had fun. That's my 11-year-old granddaughter. So she did her little sample. We got 3 different color stains and which color we're going to paint. This is what we decided on the 3 different types of fencing wood that was on there. We liked those 3 colors the best. So we ended up painting it. I had a party, invited a bunch of people over to caulk, because you got to caulk everything. And so they all came over and we caulked and we painted and got it done in a day, all caulked and painted the whole house. Yay! So took it on our first road trip. This is, Olustee is a big reenactment. Everybody that reenacts in Florida goes to Olustee. And so we took it to Olustee. There it is, all set up. That's my other granddaughter. Isn't she adorable? She lives in Atlanta. She just thinks Nana's house is the coolest thing. I haven't really done anything on the inside. It's still a work in progress, but there we are at a Living History event in Jacksonville, and the root beer coming over that blue bridge. There we are in Barberville, just up off of 17, and that's in Alpine Groves Park in St. Johns County. And here we are at Lake Eola for the Earth Day. We had 1,200 visitors come through the tiny house. This is how many people can you cram in a tiny house? And this is a couple weekends ago, 4th of July out in Geneva. Yeah, and just talked to them yesterday, and they invited us to come back out again next year. And we had about 300 people visit while we were parked in Geneva. So we went back to work. I'd been on the road, had some fun, got some more of the fencing, did all my battens because I'm doing board and batten siding, had to cut all the battens. The girls, that's Aurora and her best friend, they painted my, I've got around the base of it lattice work to hide the fact that it's a trailer. And then we painted the battens. I got cypress tongue and groove ceiling, beadboard ceiling off of Craigslist. It's out of a house in DeLand. And oak tongue and groove flooring, reclaimed oak and remilled by a mill in Geneva. And then there's that same stuff that I've been hauling from house to house. Got the air conditioner in because you can't do any work in that thing in the summertime unless there's air in it. So I took out the stained glass window temporarily. I am going to get one of those column indoor air conditioners and just run a vent out the side, and that'll be the permanent air conditioning. But this was way cheaper, and I had one of these, and so that's what we're doing temporarily for right now. We did have a tree fall on it right after this, and everything got bent, but it's all okay now. Lake Mary Life came out and they're doing an article, so we got dressed up. And but now I'm starting to deconstruct. You can see the piano's gone, back up in the loft again. Pulled pretty much all the furniture except one dresser out of it because I'm going to start working on the inside. The outside's almost finished. So right here, paneling up to the half, I just love how it looks. So I'm cutting it and I'm going to panel up the half. That's going to be painted to look like plaster. Those bead boards up there and that beautiful tongue and groove flooring down here. So I kind of had to pull everything out to get started on that. That was just a couple days ago working on my loft. It kind of looks like that right now. Yep. So back to the goals that we talked about at the beginning. Historic interpretation, 75%. 2-year build out, downsizing, and $25,000. So where am I right now? I think I got the historic interpretation. You guys think? Kind of got that, yeah. I'm pretty happy with what I've gotten there. I'm at 90%. 90% reuse and recycle stuff. 13 months into my build out, I will definitely be done by my 2-year goal, which is Christmas-ish. Yeah, I've downsized. Everything I'm selling, I'm using to pay for the tiny house so I don't go into big debt. Can't get loans for doing stuff like this. So I've sold, a dining room table, and I've sold some furniture. I've sold a whole bedroom set, just stuff I wasn't using. And we moved from like a 2,000 square foot house into 900 square foot house. So, there's a lot of stuff I needed to get rid of. I am saving, like my grandmother's dresser, stuff that's important to me. I'm trying to save and incorporate that into the tiny house, and everything else will go into storage for my granddaughter. My cousin has a big basement. As far as the budget, that's a question. Besides the piano, that's the other question that everybody asks. What you got in it? So far, I have spent $19,300. Okay? The trailer was the big expense. Remember I said that at the beginning. That was an investment for me. You could do it a lot cheaper than this. You can get a good trailer for about $3,000. I wanted aluminum. I spent for aluminum. The SIPs was $2,000. The windows, I spent a total of $4,100 on the windows. Again, you can go to, I had to have wooden windows because of the historic interpretation. You can go to the Restore and get windows from the Restore for $25. You can get all the windows for your house for less than $200. So, that was a big chunk that I chose to spend. The siding, I had budgeted $750 when I was going with Barnwood. I got it for $100. The roofing, I had budgeted $1,500, got it for around $100. Flooring, I'd budgeted $5, got it for $3. And then at Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, when I've had to go out and buy new, that's kind of what I've spent. That also includes the ice box, the $41 for the propane stove. Didn't count the piano because I already had it, that kind of stuff. Still to go, hot water heater. I'm going to get an instant hot water heater. The AC unit I want's about $250. The rest of the kitchen stuff, I probably won't spend that much. The bath, I probably won't spend that much either. And then I'm just giving myself to get to that, I'll probably end up a whole lot less than that by the time I'm done, but I'm still well within it with a cushion. So I think I did okay. So questions? Tour?
What's SIPs?
Structural Insulated Panel System. These are SIPs.
And I guess they're just more like the wall.
The walls and the ceiling are all SIPs. Yeah, and you don't have to do insulation because it's built in. The insulation's built in. So there's no framing, traditional framing, and no insulation.
Are tiny houses legal off of trailers?
Yes and no. Depends on where you are.
Laws?
Yeah, every county in Florida is different, and then sometimes within a municipality it's different. There's a lot of research going on out there and a lot of A lot of people working on making them more legal. Typically, your footprint of your house, depending on where you are, is the lowest I've ever seen is 500. Sometimes it's 750. Sometimes it's 900 square feet. So, no, in most cases it's not. You can get a variance. In an RV park, you can live in an RV park in them because they're zoned. They've got special zoning for stuff like that. City of Sanford was willing to let me live in a mobile home park with it, but I don't want to live in a mobile home park. For me, I'm not in any huge rush. You know, I've got 7 more years till I retire, so I got some time for stuff to get legal. The city of Rockledge over in Brevard County has just approved, what are they calling it, pocket housing and a pocket community, and they're in the process of designing and permitting and making it legal for on and off wheel tiny houses. So, but honestly, the movement sort of started with them on wheels because that's what makes them legal, you know. But typically, you can't live in it over 14 days either. Kind of depends if your neighbors decide to turn you in.
How many square feet is your house and how long is the trailer?
My trailer is, the living space of the trailer is 20 feet long. The trailer is 29, including the tongue. My living space inside, because my walls are thick, is 125. And that's not counting the loft. Yes, sir.
Yes, I want to congratulate you on all your hard work.
Thank you. Before I did this, I named her Nawaka because she taught me how to be self-reliant. But before I did this, only thing I'd ever built was a dog house and a chicken coop. So I guess part of, you know, what I enjoy about this is really it's doable. Anybody can do it. And you just can't be afraid of making mistakes. I've taken it apart and put things back together bunches. And I research a lot. Insurance. Direct Auto will insure an RV, a home-built RV. And so it doesn't have to be RVIA certified. A lot of other insurance companies will only certify RVIA. And that's a builder has to build it for you. But I found that Direct Auto will insure a home-built RV.
Is it expensive?
No. It's $50 a year. It's awesome. Don't y'all go run out there and say that. Everybody do it quietly and individually, okay? But yeah, it's also covered by your car insurance when you're towing it. If you rent a U-Haul to tow it, it's covered by the U-Haul insurance. But you know, if you want it insured while it's sitting somewhere, it's good to have it. Yes, sir.
How much work do you perceive we'll have to convince the legislature and all these other people to go this way, especially for refugees and all veterans and all homeless?
You know, it's really catching on. I think a couple of years ago, when a very small group of us in the Florida Tiny House group started meeting and talking, and at that first workshop with Jay, we never thought that we'd be where we are now, with communities actually recognizing it, with being invited to come to a library and talk in public about it. Working for the government, I've always been of the opinion that I want to, you know, not be under the radar. There's a lot of people that already living in them under the radar, you know, just hope your neighbors don't turn you in kind of thing. That's not an option for me because of my job. And so, you know, I'm talking to zoning people in the city of Sanford now about, you know, if I decided to do this early, what do I need to do? You know, right now, I don't plan on living in it full time. She's going into 6th grade, so I got 7 more years. I'd kill her. I've already been through teenagers once. I'd kill her if we were in that small of a space. But you know, when she goes off to college, yeah, I want to hit the road and have some fun. So I'm not personally worried about zoning, but I feel it's incumbent on those of us that are kind of at this point and early on in the movement to try to, you know, to pave the way for stuff like that. So there's a lot of work being done, and I see a very good future for it. A lot about the wounded veterans, the homeless solutions, and you know, everybody's like, oh, you know, it could be. For me, okay, this is my solution to not be homeless after I retire. You know, so okay, you know, And it's definitely affordable living and not being chained to a mortgage, so, yeah. Yeah.
Is there any particular reason why you got the aluminum trailer? Or
'Cause
is it different?
it's so much lighter, and I knew,
It's just weight.
well, because of what I was gonna do with, I cook with cast iron, you know, so I knew I wasn't gonna have a lot of lightweight stuff in it. My stuff is heavy, and so I needed to start with as light as possible. So that was really it behind it. And I know this aluminum trailer builder that he's just, you know, he's great, and he talked me into it. Anybody else?
Yeah, do you know how much it weighs?
The trailer or the house?
Everything.
The house right now is about 6,000 pounds. You know, when that flooring starts going in and all that stuff, it's going to add another couple hundred pounds to it. I'm shooting for not over 7,500 pounds when I'm done, but my truck will tow 13,500.